What's up, guys? Welcome back to MVP Learners. In today's episode, we're going to be going over some of the hardest problems you will encounter on Module 2. On screen, I've listed the problems I will be working out today. I invite you to follow along and see my thought process and how I do it. Let's get started. So for these trig questions, I like to draw them out. We got triangle JKL, so I'm going to draw a right triangle. We're told that J is the side with the right angle, so I'm going to put J here, and then we'll just make K or L. It doesn't matter which side is which, because the values would just swap. So anyways, with cosine of k, we're told that that's 24 over 51. So remember SOHCAHTOA for these trig questions. When we write it out, we're dealing with cosine, the c. So that tells us we're going to have adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means the k side, or the side adjacent to k, is going to be 24. And the hypotenuse is going to be 51. And then we're asked to find cosine of L. So we would need the adjacent side of L and the hypotenuse. So the way we're going to do that is we have to use our Pythagorean theorem to get this side. So if we do that, 24 squared plus, we'll call it x squared, equals 51 squared. And then if we solve for x, we'll get x squared equals 51 squared minus 24 squared. And then so x will equal the square root of 51 squared minus 24 squared. So if you put that in your calculator, let me do that right now, it's going to come out to 45. So that's awesome. We now know that this side is 45. So then to get cosine of L, all we have to do is just put adjacent over hypotenuse, so that'll be 45 over 51. And then if we simplify this, we can divide by 3 on the top and the bottom. This will come out to 15 over 17, and then that will be our answer. So in this question, we're asked to find the greatest possible value of b that makes the equation have no real solution. So they like to ask these a lot, these no real solution or how many solution questions. And the trick to them is you have to find the discriminant and then know what value it's going to be. So in this case, the discriminant is going to be b squared minus 4ac. And it's going to have to be less than 0 because we're told it has no solutions, no real solutions. And then we just have to set a and c, and then we can use that to solve for b. So a in this case is going to be -1. Remember, that comes from the number in front of the x squared, the coefficient, and then our c is the number, the constant at the end. So that's going to be -676. So then now if we plug these values in, we have b squared minus 4 times -1 times -676. So what I would do right here is I would throw from here to here into your calculator. So let me do that. And then when we do that, we're going to get 2,704. So we'll have b squared minus 2,704. And then that's going to be less than 0. So what we need to do here is now solve this. So this is pretty easy. We'll just add the value to the other side. So then this will be b squared is less than 2,704, and then we just square root both sides. So b is less than 52 if you put it in your calculator. So from here, you might be tempted to put 52 as your answer, but be very careful because the question asks what is the greatest possible value of b. Remember, if we put in a 52, that doesn't satisfy this inequality, because it's 52 is not less than 52, it's equal to it. So we're told that it's an integer, so be very careful with this wording. They do this a lot on the SAT. They ask for the greatest possible integer. So remember, an integer is just a whole number with no decimal after it. So the biggest possible value b can be is going to be 51. I'll just go down 1, and 51 satisfies that inequality, and it's the greatest possible value. So there you go. That is our answer. In this question, we're asked to find how many solutions this system of equations will have. We're given this equation in like text form, and then the other two equations are given in the graph. So we have this equation here. It's kind of hard to see. They need to do a better job printing these, to be honest, but it's this line right here and then this horizontal line right here. So what I would do is put them all into slope-intercept form, and then I'll show you the trick from there on how to do it. So the equation in the graph, you got to get the slope first. So if you see here, these are the 2 points they give us, and you can go down 3 and then over 12. So that tells you the slope will be negative 3 over 12 or negative 1/4. So then to make the equation, this will just be negative 1/4 x plus 4. So I got the plus 4 because it crosses the y-axis here. And then this horizontal line, that's just at y equals 2. So I'll write that. And then now this equation down here, let me draw it down here. X plus 4y equals negative 16. We just have to solve for y to put it into slope-intercept form. So then when we do that, we'll have 4y equals negative x minus 16. Divide out the 4. Y equals negative 1/4 x minus 4. Okay, so if you graph it, it's going to look something like this. And it's going to, when you graph it, it will look, and yeah. So it'll look something like that, okay? So what you'll notice is that this slope and this slope are the same. That means that the lines are parallel, which means they're never going to touch, okay? So that tells us if they never touch, that this is going to have 0 solutions. So if they had the same slope and same y-intercept, that means they would overlap and they would have infinite many solutions. So that's how you answer these questions. Not too bad once you know what to do. If you get a question like this where you're asked to find how much percent it decreases by after a year, I'm going to show you how to just do it really easy. So we're told that x is the amount of months. So after a year, basically, it's going to be 12 over 12, which is just 1. So after 1 year, it'll be 5,470 times 0.64. Okay, so it's going to be, we're going to multiply this basically by 64%. But we're asked by what percentage it decreases by. So this is a way they try to trick you. You might be tempted to put 64, but that's not the answer. What you have to do is you have to take 100% to get the percent decrease and then subtract the 64%. And then that'll tell us that it decreased by 36%. So real easy if you just know that trick. So here's another one that I think is really easy if you know what to do, but you can get tripped up really easily. So we're given data set A in this picture, and we're told that data set B is created by adding 56 to each of the values in data set A. So all that means is this will become 58 and then 59, 60, 61, and 62. And then we're asked to compare the median and range. So obviously, if we make all the values 56 greater, the median is going to be somewhere around here in this data set versus here in this data set. So obviously the median is going to be greater in this data set B. So we can cross out A and B instantly because they say the median is equal, which is just clearly not true. And then this one says that the range is equal, and this one says the range is greater. So we can tell that the range is going to be C because the range is going to stay the same because we're just offsetting it by 56. So in the top, you can see that it's clearly the range is 4, just like here. In the new one, it's 62 minus 58, which is 4. So don't get tricked by these questions. Just think it through. They're not too bad. So this question is dealing with circles. So we're told that this equation represents the first circle, and then circle B is obtained by shifting circle A down 2 units. So we just got to figure out what circle B is. These are potential equations of circle B. So I think it helps to draw it out just so I can give you guys a picture. So let me do that. So the circle, the first one we know is going to have a center at 0, 1 based on the equation. And then we're told to shift it down 2 units. So then the new circle, the center will be here. It'll be down here. And then we can just draw it out. So basically the equation is it needs to have a center of 0, -1. So which of these has a center of 0, -1? It's going to be D, and that will be our answer. So this question, I'm going to warn you, is arguably one of the hardest questions in all of the SAT practice tests. There's no like cheat code or trick to do this. You just kind of got to look at the problem, use some algebra, use your head, and get it. So I'm going to walk you through this kind of problem. So if you get something similar, you'll know what to do. So we're told that we have two identical rectangular prisms with a height of 90 centimeters. The prisms are glued together along a square base. So that means both sides on the base are the same. And the surface area of each prism is K. And the resulting prism from gluing them together is 92/47K. So what you have to gather from that is, you see how that number, it's almost 2K, but not quite. And the reason is because we're gluing the bases together, so that inside base is not going to be on the outside. So it won't count towards the surface area. So what do I mean by that? Let me draw this out. So we have this prism. It's going to look something like that. And then there's going to be another prism attached to it that looks like that. So you see how there's like a base inside here? Yeah, that's not going to be part of the surface area equation. So that's why it's not exactly 2K. So what we have to do basically is just find the surface area of one of these prisms and then set that equal to the surface area of the total glued prism. So K, the surface area of a singular prism, that will equal 2s squared because we're counting the outside square in this case. The reason for that is because we're looking at this prism as an individual. So imagine we're taking this prism and moving it to the outside on its own. So that's why we're going to count the 2s squared, okay? If you have questions on that, please leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. So we'll add that to the area of this plus this side over here plus the bottom. So there's 4 of them, and they're all going to equal 90s. So it'll be 360s. Okay, that's good. We have K. And then now we have to get the surface area of this whole thing. So 92/47K, that is going to equal, so basically we're just going to get the whole thing. So we still have a 2s squared because we have this base and then one in the back here. So it's going to be 2s squared. And then we have all of these rectangles on the outside, but then we're just going to duplicate it on the other side. So that'll be plus 720s. And then now the trick is you just got to substitute K in here. So then that will equal 92/47K equals, or I got to plug it in, equals, so times 2s squared plus 360s. And then that is going to equal 2s squared plus 720s. And that is a nasty equation, I will not lie. So what I would recommend doing at this point is use Desmos, just plug it in, just put an X instead of an S into Desmos, and then you should be good. Desmos will spit out BA when you plug that equation in, and that will be your answer. So thankfully on this practice test, they decided to end Module 2 with a pretty easy one. All you have to do is just use the percent change formula. So if we plug that in, it'll be 210 minus 30 over 30, and we're going to multiply that by 100. So then when we do that, this will come out to 210 minus 30 is 180. Divided by 30, that'll be 6 times 100. So then this will end up being 600%, and that will be our answer. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for future SAT content.